Hi guys, Josh here, welcome to Frames Per Second. Today we're with...
Kylie Ann. I am modeling for you today.
And we're shooting a few different rolls of film. I might split it up to some different videos, but we'll see in the future. And later on we're doing something a bit different as well, so enjoy. So the film we're talking about today is my favorite film of all time that unfortunately discontinued, Kodak Ektachrome VS. The roll I have here is a decently stored roll of Ektachrome VS, and it can be a bit tricky finding decently stored versions of it. And now this one had a particularly blue color shift, which usually happens when it's been cold stored for quite a while. Now this featured on my first episode, or really it's technically episode 2, but my first episode really, and I absolutely fell in love with it. It's just got nice, vibrant, and vivid colors, but it's still kind of a natural look of what the colors would be. I'm not saying it's like naturalistic looking, but the reds are an accurate red, the yellows are an accurate yellow, the greens, it's just a lot more saturated. This is really my favorite film, and if I only had one stock to pick from, it would be this one. Unfortunately, when it isn't stored well, it does have a bit of a magenta cast. Unfortunately, out of all the Ektachromes, it does seem to get the most color shifts and grain the longer it's expired. And of course, you can fix it up and tweak it in post. And because I have shot fresher versions of it, I do kind of have a good starting point of how it should look like. Like this particular version was cold stored its whole life, so it was more of a blue tint to the color shift. And I kind of think I maybe should have overexposed it 1/3 of a stop as well, so maybe I should have metered at 80, or just because I think maybe my light meter wasn't really going for the mids as much as I wanted it to. But I did a decent job of just tweaking the exposure and the color balance, but still kind of keeping the Ektachrome VS look, especially the way it treats its reds and the skin tones. Now this isn't like Provia where the skin tones do shift a bit, or Velvia. Obviously this is an expired roll, so it's not the most accurate representation of the film, but once it's tweaked, you do kind of see how nice it is with the colors, even though it is crazy saturated. Now the medium format version isn't as saturated as the 35, at least in my experience. It seems a bit more natural than the 35 that I've shot of this. And maybe it is because it is on a larger negative, and so the colors aren't as compressed, but here it is quite nice. I think maybe I should have shot more in direct sunlight, which is how I usually like to shoot my slide film. For slide film, this exposure is actually quite alright, because you do have decent shadow detail, but also the highlights aren't fully blown out. But yeah, it's a great film stock, obviously fine grained, unless it is very expired. But with medium format, you don't have as much trouble with that. Obviously, if you brighten it in post, there will be a fair bit of grain. Here, the shadow detail is a bit less than I would have liked. And we did get other rolls of film shot for this photo shoot, so there will be future episodes as well. This guy let us borrow his front yard for our shoot, which was really nice of him. He didn't have to, and so we got some really nice shots here. This shot's really nice. While it may look like I'm adding saturation to it, I'm really not. When you tweak exposure, it does kind of affect the saturation of it a little bit. Yeah, it is kind of weird seeing it this blue since I've shot quite a few rolls that shifted magenta, so I'm a bit curious as to why that happened, but I'm still able to get good results that I like. Here is definitely a bit underexposed, and yeah, I just like color and contrast, and you don't really get that with portrait since it's going more for skin tones and more of a flatter starting point for you to kind of adjust. But with slide and Ektachrome VS in particular, I do get that kind of Ektar saturation, but with more of a normalized skin color. and this shot I really like. So this is from our shoot with Emma, which you've seen before, and there were a few shots I got with this. Unfortunately, the last 3 shots aren't really usable, so I won't be showing those ones, but this shot I really do love quite a bit. Yeah, it is a great film, and it's exactly what I want, which is color and contrast and fine grain. And so that's why it is my favorite film stock. Unfortunately, it's discontinued, you can't get it anymore. The new Ektachrome, while it does have good colors, isn't as punchy, and maybe it's a bit more pastel, at least in my opinion anyway. But I think if maybe you did up the vibrance, you could get something similar, but there's just something special about the Ektachrome VS that unfortunately I haven't been able to find in another film stock. While I have been able to get good portrait shots with Ekta, it just never hits right with the skin tones in the same way that this film does, but obviously because it's color negative, it does have a bit more play. But there's just something special about the way the yellows and reds in particularly come out with this film that I like a lot. And even just the blues as well, just like everything, it's the right amount of saturation for my liking without having to sacrifice the skin tones when I do a lot of portrait work. And it's a film that I am kind of hoping, since there is new Ektachrome, maybe we can get some variations again. Though I feel like that's probably not something Kodak is looking to do. I can always dream, because I do want to be able to shoot more of my favorite film stock. For now, I have a few more rolls of expired stuff that I'll be saving for some special projects in the future.
Okay guys, thanks for watching. As you can see, we're somewhere completely different with a horse. So this is a teaser of what we did afterwards, which will be a bit different from other shoots. So I hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe. Let us know your thoughts on the images in the comments below. Just get out there, shoot some film.